part of the state can be heard on the Periscope. The Periscope on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio with the host Fisayomi Ajibola every weekdays, Mondays to Fridays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You won't want to miss it.
It's another lovely Monday morning, the 17th day in the month of July 2023. So beautiful morning to you wherever you're watching us. So right on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Sure you had a restful weekend, though it's still quite raining. Of course, we are already in the rainy season, so definitely we'll be expecting more of the rain when expected and when not expected. But let's just make sure that we are ready. And we are always keeping ourselves warm and, of course, not aggravating or not causing flood or erosion right at wherever we are at the moment. So good morning to you once again. Welcome to Periscope, a fresh episode for the week. Yes, for the week, the first one for the week this morning on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. My name is MODUPE, AKINYOSOYE. And on Periscope, it's the platform where we discuss issues, topical issues. We bring to the front burner different topical issues to dissect and holistically look into that definitely affect every citizen in the country and, of course, moving forward, so to say. And this morning, I will be talking about, I'm sure you are aware of how Nigerians have actually been talking about how to cushion the effect of the petrol subsidy removal and all of that, what the new administration is actually doing, steps that should be taken to cushion the effect of the petrol subsidy removal. And presently, weeks back, that was last week, the president actually wrote to the House to approve a particular amount of money to share with vulnerable Nigerians to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. So we will be looking into that. We'll be looking into the antecedent of, approving a particular amount of money to share among Nigerians. To what effect will this go? How effective can this be to cushion that effect? Will it, basically cushion that effect? Because we've had, this has actually faced with different different reactions. While some commended the president, some are saying looking at the antecedent of sharing a particular amount of money with some vulnerable Nigerians, we have been seeing the results and how far it will go, how effective that is. So all of that is actually what we'll be looking into. For those that are not really familiar with that very action from our president, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, wrote to the House of Representatives seeking an amendment to the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act. And the amendment, is said, was to allow the federal government to source for 500 billion naira for palliative to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. And also, of course, the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, read the president's letter during the plenary on Wednesday. And so Tinubu said the money would be sourced from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act of 819.5 billion naira. And of course, that will be channeled towards particular vulnerable and poor Nigerians or households, giving them that, I think 8,000 naira. Yes, that will be 8,000 naira for a particular amount of particular month, so to say. Now, how effective is this to the economy? Would this really cushion the effect? And what is the possibility of, because some people have actually been questioning the authenticity in distributing this particular amount of money to that vulnerable people, exact vulnerable people, and will not be taken, will not be just heard that, okay, the administration is distributing a particular amount of money, and then we just heard that, but we are unable to, see evidences from households, from individuals that have gotten the particular amount of money. All of that actually is what we'll be looking into this morning on Periscope. And of course, the cost of that, you can as well drop your comment on under the video. Definitely share your thoughts, your submission, your opinion concerning that. Do you see it as a welcome idea? Looking at the antecedents, and also how effective do you think the utilization of the amount of money could be? Don't forget that before the end of the former administration, that from the former president, he also sought for a loan from the World Bank. That's $800 million, which actually was criticized greatly due to the antecedent of how the government have been sharing an amount of money like that in as guys to cushion the effect of surgery removal. Now, with me to have the discussion in the studio, I have a politician and an honorable in the house, a social commentator, and of course, he would have this do justice to the topic this morning in person of Honorable Al-IyamoyeTv. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good to have you once again.
Oh, lovely to be here again.
All right, so let's shoot. Tinubu wrote to House of Rep to request for 500 million naira to cushion the effect of as palliative, or for palliative, to cushion the effect of the petrol subsidy removal. Before we move into the integrity of that has actually been faced with different reactions, from people. That some have been commending the president, and while some have been saying that it is still not a step to be taken to cushion the effect of palliative. What your personal opinion on that?
Yes, first of all, I will have to give God the, thanks for the privilege to be in the studio this morning. So challenging, but I thank God I made it through. And good morning, our viewers. See, I keep telling people, those that care to know, that care to listen rather, I beg your pardon, that the problem we are faced, that Nigeria is faced with today, is not actually the problem of subsidy implementation or removal of subsidy, as it were, in the first place. But the thing is, the major problem we are faced with as a people is the problem of corruption. And not corruption as it were, to be precise. It is what I would call accountability.
Would you relate that with bad leadership? Because some people would say bad leadership.
Yes, that is the bedrock of the problem we are actually, the problems we are facing in this country as a group of people. You see, when you say lack of accountability on the part of our leaders has really generated into what we call corruption. If I can account for every penny, every kobo, I beg your pardon, that I spend in the course of discharging my duties and responsibility as a public office holder, either being elected or appointed, then it gives me a sense of responsibility to really implement policies that will make me transparent in my dealings with the people. So that has been, in my own point of view, to be the bedrock,
major issue,
of the challenges we are facing in this country. Away from that, without missing words, corruption has become endemic in our system in Nigeria, and that is what the present administration, under the leadership of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would do all to fight. Not forgetting the fact that President Muhammadu Buhari, started the fight, the campaign against, corruption. But at a point, it was told that when you fight corruption, corruption would fight back. And that was what we experienced towards the tail end, or towards, in the introduction of the second tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari, because the first tenure he had to battle with his health. So, some scholars or some, philosophers or some, public affairs analysts will say it is as a result of fighting corruption back that is causing all this menace. Away from that, I will tell you, in the first place, nations of the world that are introducing subsidy, as it were, to say, to energy, renewable energy, we could see some of these nations are not oil-producing nations. So to say, they need subsidy to really, beat down the price of, petroleum and crude oil, produce for the consumption of the citizens. But in our own case, it is different. We are the one producing, the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. I don't know why we will excavate the crude oil from our own soil. Then we would have to ship it to a foreign, refineries to fine tune or to refine this crude oil into, products, and that same would be, would have to be imported back to the, to the country for the consumption of the people, So that was what brought about this argument. Then how did you arrive at that point? Back in the, in the days when the refinery was still working, or back in the days, I think if I'm not mistaken, in the early 1980s, in 1980 to be precise, we were producing more of what we consume in this country. As at then, $1 is estimated to be 80 kobo. Because we are consuming what we are producing in our dear country, Nigeria.
The level of import was
drastically brought to
minimized.
So that is my point. That is my take. So it was because we could not make available the resources needed to meet up with the manufacturing industries. What they were forced to move out of the country. Now, if we are to talk about the dependency of the PMS, the diesel, in a nutshell, in the crude oil of a business that drives the economy of the country, and that has also contributed to to what we are facing today. Now, away from that, we would say if the government cannot fix refineries, we have up to 5 or 5 refineries in Nigeria, and none of these refineries is producing
a functional
production of this produce for the availability of consumption in the market. So now the marketers were forced to take this crude oil to foreign refineries, and by so doing, the cost of production, transportation will have to be considered. If I'm a businessman, I need to make profit. That is the sole aim of going into business as an investor. Now, the government now realized if you guys are bringing this produce back to the country, my people cannot afford it. So they did what? They introduced what you call, subsidy to really, subsidize the cost of all this produce we consume in the country. If by the virtue of making the introduction and corruption is not implemented, it's was not implemented, was not part of the implementation, to me, I see it as a complementary, invisible, partner. Now, away from that, if it were to be holistically handled, managed by the parties involved, the government and the stakeholders, I think what we'll be consuming today in our dear country, Nigeria as a nation can still, manage the system.
Okay.
So to me, in the first place, do we really need subsidy? For subsidy, the answer is no. You know why? Because we are endowed with crude oil, and we should. It is expected for a nation that is producing crude oil to have a functional refinery to refine the crude oil to finished produce for the consumption of the people.
Okay, so basically, to be explicit, you're saying that the step of seeking for an approval of 500 million naira to cushion naira, yes, to cushion that million naira.
No, billion.
Billion naira, I beg your pardon. To cushion that effect is not bad in itself. But the factor of corruption, are you saying that, okay, are you saying...
Let me take a position on that.
Yes, I want
okay.
to...
Thank you. See, to me, to my considered opinion, I would say it's a good move, for Mr. President and for Nigeria as a country. But then, what happened, which I want to believe will not, reoccur in this present administration. When we battled with the what's it called now, the COVID-19.
Okay.
The era of COVID-19 exposed some of these, political office holders to the people. Imagine if the federal, government could make provision of palliative to cushion the effect of sit home without going to work, and there are some, political office holders that were, honest in the even distribution of this palliative. But some of the politicians were, caught in the act. The palliative, be it, money, food, that were supposed to be shared evenly, amongst the people of either be it your constituency or the people of your, of your jurisdiction, were, kept somewhere with the notion or with the mindset of making use of it when it comes to the festive period. That okay, so honorable, so senator, or so politician will be, dishing out. I mean, did you get that fact?
Yes.
If that could be holistically distributed evenly to the people, I think it will go a long way. And that is the fear today. If truly the money would, go around as, it was expected, I mean, it will really, to some extent, there are some family that barely feed with, 2,000 naira. Yes, we've had cases. I've been privileged to be a grassroots politician. I move around, I meet with my people. I get dazed sometimes when I see a family, a father, mother, and children could not, feed on balanced diet. So that is to let you know the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 naira you give to them, without massaging my ego or anyone who has been, doing that. You just be surprised how the happiness would reflect in the faces of these family members. So that is to let you know that 8,000 naira would go a long way for some families in this country. So to me, I support that initiative.
Okay. All right. Now talking about utilization, because actually from different quarters we've been having suggestions, we've been having counter and supporting and countering the mode of utilization of this amount of money. According to reports, it was said that it will be shared among some numbers of vulnerable Nigerians, 8,000 naira per month for a number of months. And of course, we've been having several counter what's it called, analysis that it shouldn't be, Tinubu should do away from cash but should be a non-cash palliative, maybe looking at how else to utilize that amount of money. But what's your take on? Do you think it should be a cash palliative or non-cash palliative?
Yes, to me, either of the two could go a long way.
Okay,
how long? If I am going to take a position,
what statistics can you give on cash and non-cash? How long? To what extent will be effective?
Let me take you back. Sometimes last year, Ogun State government, under the leadership of Prince Dakwabiodun, at some point made available a cash transfer of 5,000 naira to really support the vulnerable. And I could remember I had some couple of beneficiaries that came to me to say, oh, help us thank Mr. Governor, whenever you go on there and these are that we have received, we hope to see more of it. I would say if implementing policy as it were, it's not a great deal. But where you have the problem is the performance of that implementation. If Mr. President would do away with cash, to me, I support that initiative. And if some Nigerians, I was, at several, forum, I saw comments from well-meaning Nigerians, agitating that, oh no, that money should not be given in form of cash or in form of whatever transfer, an electronic transfer, but it should be diverted to some sectors of the economy. Say transportation. Some even said that there's these buses that the federal government could use to purchase the mass transit. That's about, I think, in the course of estimation, I think I saw 10,000 that mass transit and buses could be distributed to the 36 states, including the FCT, to cushion the effects of transportation challenges we'll be facing in the country. But to me, either of the two is good. But if I'm to take a position, I will go for the cash.
Because some of the reasons for those that are going against the cash and supporting the non-cash is the fact that you mentioned that the one that happened, the Governor Dakwa Abiodun, and they were thanking you, saying more of that. How long can the cash go when all sectors that, if it were to be non-cash, if they channel the amount of money into those areas and make it better, for example, that mass transit or education, don't you think that will go a longer way than cash? Now, let's not even talk about inflation. 1,000 naira, I don't think 1,000 naira can be enough to feed in a day anymore as it stands.
Yes. See.
So, do you now think that the cash will be effective as longer than if it's been channeled towards particular sections, intentionally to some particular sections to at least being affordable to even the least Nigerian, instead of cash?
Holistically, the government cannot solve all our problems in the country. That is why I would love to appeal to the rich and and the wealthy people to really come to the aid of the government. I give kudos to Femi Otedola, who recently had a partnership with Lagos State government and African Development Bank. I read the news where he himself, Governor of Lagos, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and the President of African Development, Femi Adesina, where they took the photograph. And so I read the article and I said, wow, this is commendable. So if the rich, the wealthy people could also go into partnership with federal government, with this respective state government, it will go a long way in solving the problems. Now, it will be the first, Femi Otedola's partnership will be the first of its kind in our country. It's actually investing in the renewable energy and the distribution of power generation, across board. So if we have like hundreds of billionaires like that could just come around to invest and see, in the long run, one of the ways we could solve this subsidy removal is the heavy investment in this renewable energy. The dependency on the PMS alone, we can't just, depend, or we cannot run an economy with the dependency of just one commodity or one sector, which is the petroleum sector. So we need to also diversify into other sectors to really, agriculture is there, entertainment is there, sport is there, commerce and industry. Look at it. They're all there. We need investors. And away from that, there are families in this country that are finding it difficult to feed. I could understand that, the corruption of a thing. Some people will say, some even argue on some, platform that, yes, this is another way of this government embezzling money. That, are we sure that the families would, the vulnerable families would receive these, these monies and all. Then I said to them, those I could reply that, come, if we can support the government, I think the government would achieve more in, solving our problems in this country. Now, like I said earlier, implementing policy is good, but the performance of that implementation will go a long way. And how do I mean? If there will be a committee that the president or the federal government would constitute.
Talking about that performance and of course setting up committee, if we trace back to the antecedent of sharing palliative, social intervention fund and all of that, don't you think that there are areas, you mentioned corruption, there are areas, of course they set up committee to share the fund, they set up, they do the necessary, so to say, but at the end of the day, when we ask majority of Nigerians, were you able to, the vulnerable ones, were you able to get, they say no. What do you think should be done? What areas? Because if committee setting up, they will set up committee. Of course, I'm sure that I was hearing a report that committee is working, they're working on committee, if they haven't set it up, to do that, to distribute the 500 billion naira to the vulnerable Nigerians and all of that. Now, another question, another issue that was raised by people is how do they identify? Because our data, Nigerian data, is being questioned. How do the government identify the real vulnerable Nigerians?
Well, yes, there is a structure.
Or is it a case just like some people will say if they are ready to do their job, they will do it perfectly well?
No, see, I think I used to, I'm always a fan of this notion that when the government is ready, they know what to do. Yes, that is just the blatant truth about the whole thing. There's a structure in place. We have federal government, we have state government, we have local government, we have ward, and that is the constitutionally recognized structure. But when you get to the ward level, in a political structure, we have zones. And when you get to zones, you have communities. When you get to communities, you have households. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, this can be, this exercise can be achieved if all hands would be on deck. And how do I mean? The CDAs, the CDCs, they also have a role to play in this. It is the chairman of a community, alongside with the executive members, that can identify vulnerable families. in the community. These people, this family, to feed has become, a challenge for them.
Because they directly interact with
they live in the community, the household, and we have each landlord that represents each household. Each building or each house. So it means if the chairman of each CDA could be met with, have a discussion. I'm talking about the ward level because it's we know that it is the councillor that represents the ward. So the councillor can liaise with the local government chairman, or the chairman of that local government could call a roundtable meeting. Probably the CDC, because CDA make up CDC. Are you getting it now? So the executive chairman of that local government could call for a meet with the CDC, executives, and say, this is what the federal government wants to achieve, and they can't do it all alone. We have to partner, and in the course of doing that, we have to liaise with, the community. So please help us identify. We can't have 100%, 100% accuracy of the data generation, but to some extent, it will still go a long way in identifying the needed family, not those that can afford 3 square meals. Though it might not be convenient sometimes, but there are families that they cannot. When you make visits to some of these, households, some of these families, you get to know that there's hunger in the land, there's hardship in the land. So that is why I commend this initiative. Honestly, holistically speaking, if we want to achieve this, it is not the government alone. The people, we must come to, go to the local government, the SCD, the CDA chairman, to the CDC chairman or executives, as it were, go to the, to the local government, down to the state government, and that is how the chain continues,
Go. I have 2 questions as regards that. Going by statistics, don't you think even the number of vulnerable Nigerians that we have at the moment is way more than the amount of money they want to share to some particular vulnerable Nigerians?
Yes.
Because in a particular community, if you make your statistics, you could say that maybe the councillor could say, for example, we have 10 house, in this particular community, and we could say that 5 household cannot. They are. Vulnerable is even an understatement. That they need, and from statistics, the national statistics, to the number of vulnerable that they want to, it can't reach those 5 households in that community.
Statistically speaking, if we have, for example, for a case study, 1 million, vulnerable families that would benefit from this initiative, and the committee started with the responsibility of making sure this palliative ensuring these palliatives gets to the grassroots. All of these families cannot benefit it. From experience, I have seen a couple of years ago when a particular public, a political office holder was anticipating to, make available some monies, to support, traders. At some point, he had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, over 100 traders. You won't believe, out of that over 100 traders, some of the party members that were not supposed to be in that list were over 40. And when the man got to know, and he was asking questions, do you people really need this money? And they said, we have someone to give to. You have someone. Are you sure you are going to make this money available for them? So that is one of the problems we are facing in this country.
Because
we are quick to castigate. We are quick to condemn the government. With the people, we as a people, we have our own shortcomings that we are not even seeing. You know, the log in our eyes has not been removed. Then we are quick to see the speck of wood in the eyes of the government. And that is why I keep telling people, the government alone cannot solve our problem. Statistically, if we have a total numbers of families that will benefit from this, it won't go round. It won't get to all of these families. You know why? Factors will set in. I can't really pick one for now, but I know. But at least 70 to 80% of these families would benefit from it. And that is how it has always been from inception.
Secondly, what about those, apart from Nigerians now, those players that will ensure that this palliative get to the vulnerable Nigerians that will sabotage the process?
Like I said earlier,
how should the government at the national level, streamline down to the state level, constitute a monitoring strategy? Because most of the time we are nonchalant. When we say we bring out a particular action, okay, we want to do this, we are not concerned about the implementation and how well it has gone. Even getting reports. Okay, so how far have we gone? Can we even meet some of these vulnerable Nigerians? Can you do video? Can you this and that? There are no monitoring process or strategy. What do you think this government?
Well, even if we have a competent monitoring structure in place, if the number one factor that needs to be worked on as a group of people, if that is not totally dealt with, then we are still not there yet.
And do you mean corruption?
That is corruption. The problem of accountability. Let me chip in this.
Okay.
During the the COVID-19, era or period, like I said, the palliative that came to the local government was evenly distributed through each constituency. That is, we have two constituencies in Abeokuta South Local Government Constituency 1 and Constituency 2. And when it got to that point, the constituency need to, beckon on the ward chairman. And when they got to that, the ward chairman called on the zonal chairman. Like I said, when you get to the ward level, we still have, zonal zones. So when they got the zonal chairman, to the zonal chairman how to call on some of the party leaders, active, members that they know could identify with the vulnerables. I could remember we were told, because I was privileged to be one of the, the party stakeholders that was, consulted to make the distribution. So when we got to the meeting, we were told that, please don't just hand over these bags of rice, these bags of, noodles. Please, alone, take pictures. Let's see that, holistically, these palliatives were, handed over to the needy, to the right people. Not that we take it to one of our family members and we believe, yes, we have, shared the palliative. And we took pictures. And we returned our report back to the zonal chairman. So that is to let you know that there is a feedback. And how effective is that feedback is because the system itself is not encouraging. That is why I said all fingers must be on deck now. Don't let us just tongue lash the federal government alone, the state government alone, the local government alone. Let's all come to the head. Let us support the government. I know some people that got the palliative as a result of paddy, man no man. And the man told me that, how could he do evil, commit this evil. And I said, what evil? That a friend of his who happens to be very close to the government called him and gave him, bag of rice, bag of, they were just mentioned. And said, I don't need all these things. I have them in abundance. And he said, how will he do this evil to take them to his household? He now said, okay, you know what? He called his wife. Do you have people we can give them? He can say, one more. And when I heard one more, I know there's a problem in the land. So that's what we are saying. He was forced to take part of the ones they had in the house, combined with the palliative that was given. Go around. That's what we are saying. If this man could do that, what of other Nigerians that could also emulate that heart? That's what we are saying. Not the government alone. As a people, see. Okay, we said the youth are the future of the country. Where are the youths? The youth are there. Some of the youths are up and doing, preparing to take over leadership someday. Why some are just there, looking for opportunity. But when you are not prepared, opportunity cannot be activated. Like this popular saying by a great philosopher who said that when preparation meets opportunity, success is attained. And going by this popular 6 P's, that prior proper preparation prevents poor performance. Preparation. I was talking to a mentee someday and I said, take away preparation from all of these 6 P's. What do you have? It was days. He was astonished to see why it makes no sense. Are you getting it? Now that's what we are saying. We have to do all we can to support the government and make sure this thing gets to the
right
needy,
people.
The right people.
All right, so of course, still Periscope on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and we are having discussion on the proposed 500 billion naira that want to be used for palliatives for vulnerable Nigerians. I saw a report of a particular move by a governor in Nigeria, Imo State to be precise, Uzodinma, and Uzodinma had increased minimum wage to 40,000 naira. And of course, even senior civil servant to will get, and I think part of also the palliative, he mentioned the free transportation. Even saw the report that meals will be made available for civil servants and all of that. How do you see this at state level? Do you see these actions to be worthy of emulation for other state governments?
Yes, that was a great move by Governor Uzodinma of Imo State. When I read the news article, I was, wow, this is commendable. See, Kwara State government sometimes last month, if I'm not mistaken, dished out this policy of 3 days.
Reduce the number of working days.
And I was like, whoa, lovely. So he pushed it to the workforce, the state government, workers that, fine, choose 3 days out of these 5 days. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I had Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Just to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. And we've had some of top government office holders that have been able to do one thing or the other to support the people. Good. Well, to my own considered opinion, if you have to give more money, it is good, encouraging, but it will only last for a while. In an attempt of executing that, what are the plans in place to have a long-lasting solutions to all of these problems? If the government would mitigate our challenges, they have to take a pragmatic steps, approaches in solving these problems. Now, the Nigerian Labour Union unions are, agitating for salary increase of up to 200 naira per minimum wage.
200,000 naira.
It's to me,
how do we source?
To me, I look at it like this is ridiculous. If what they're agitating for could
money.
be their rights, why this, that is understandable. But if we have to go to the detriment of sourcing for funds that are not available, so that means the government will have to be forced to go for extra loan to get these monies paid, to the government, to the labor, to the labor union. I mean, to the Nigerian government workers. It will still impound or mount pressure on our debt data. Yeah. So what I would recommend for the government, to my own considered view, is to look for ways. And one of the ways that has been highlighted by stakeholders, by experts in the economy, has been invest in renewable energy. And that will go a long way in supporting the economy of the nation. And how do I mean? Take a look for a case study. Electricity. How many megawatts of electricity are we distributing per month? Do I need to remind you? It is less than 4,000 megawatts. And Nigeria, as a nation, has the capacity to generate 22,000 megawatts. But are we really generating up to that? The answer is no. So we need to improve that. We need to encourage investors to invest massively in that sector. Take a look at nations like America. America produces over 1 million megawatts to power the country. Go to China. China has over, if I'm not mistaken, almost 6 million megawatts to power the country. That is to let you know, investment will strive. Industries will fly. There won't be any complaint of, we are relocating from Nigeria, we are relocating from this state, we are relocating to a neighboring where we can enjoy an uninterrupted regular power supply of electricity. And when there is shortage of the distribution or the availability of all these factors, it will discourage investors to come into the country to partner with the government. So that's what kudos to, like I said earlier, to Femi Otedela, who deemed it fit to partner with the Lagos State. It's first of its kind, the public-private public-private partnership arrangement that was made. Would at some point help to advance the even distribution of this it will improve the megawatt generation. That's why we are appealing to the government. We can diversify into this, when we say renewable energy, you have wind energy, you have, name it. They are numerous. So call on investors that can invest. And mind you, if you are beckoning on investors to come partner with you or to come invest in your country, there are some parameters that needs to be put in place. Like security, like infrastructure, like, this are natural
enabling environment.
Thank you. The government needs to do that. We have to convince the investor, come. I'm not coming to your country to risk my life because I have this money, because I want to make more money, I want to make profit. No. I have to be assured that upon arrival, there will be security of life, security of property, security of investment. So I've heard investors, by the virtue of my engagement, that, we cannot invest in social sector. And I keep asking questions, why? And they tell me, no. Corruption, number one. 2, the environment cannot support that, investment. And I keep going into that logical point of view that, if this can be enhanced effectively, the government can go a long way of, see, we are blessed in this country. Nigeria can become one of the power nations of the world. If only one factor amongst others can be dealt with, and that is the problem of accountability. If a Nigerian can stand today and say, I am going to occupy that political office and I'm going to be transparent in all my dealings with the government with the government and with the people. And that is why I keep pushing it out. To that effect, there's a book that I'll be cooking and will be published anytime soon. Why I'm saying this is because the government must be encouraged, must be told, must be counseled, must be advised on a daily basis. And who are the government? Who is the government? It's the people. Now, if by God's grace I am elected someday to be the executive governor of this state and the president of Nigeria, you know what? I cannot do it alone. I need people. I need support. I need aids. I need, name it. And if my mindset, my orientation is contrary to their own, orientation, there will be imbalance of policy implementation and the likes. So that is why I'm appealing to government, to our people, to please, let's be honest to some extent to what we do, because the problem of accountability resulted to corruption. If there's no transparency in accountability, then you can sense corruption. If the executive governor of a state cannot say, this month we generated from internally generated revenue 2 billion naira. This month, a sum of 6 billion naira was, allocated from the federation account, treasury account. So total of 8 billion naira this month. And we've been able to spend so amounts to this sector, to this sector, to this sector, upon verification. Then if we are not there yet, then there's a problem somewhere.
All right, of course, the problem is definitely what we'll be finding solutions to every point in time when we have the opportunity and the time to talk about issues like this. Because of our time, I would like to appreciate my guest this morning, President of Honorable Al-IyamoyeTv. Thank you so much for coming around once again.
Thanks for having me.
That will be the size of a package. This is where we draw the curtain. Definitely the conversation still continue. You can drop your opinion, drop your submission and comment just on the comment section of this video, and let's get the conversation going on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and of course our YouTube channel. Subscribe to get more of our videos. My name is MODUPE AKINYOSOYE. Good morning.